Tesla has had parabolic rallies in the past. There was one back in 2013 and it managed to hold on to that. Do the fundamentals suggest that maybe it can hold on to this one too?
Well, the fundamentals, depending on who you talk to, suggest it could be hugely overpriced, or it could be valued the way it should be, like a tech stock. And that's kind of the way the investors have been looking at it right now, or at least as a growth stock. And that's what's really powered the rally over the last few months. Part of it also is the fact that Elon Musk has really, instead of a lot of the distractions he had, smoking pot on camera and that sort of thing, or thumbing his nose at the SEC, has really focused on operating this company and getting things running right. And they've got the Shanghai plant up and running, and it's actually going to get up and running despite a short halt from the coronavirus. He's got the Model Y coming out earlier than everybody expected. So those who think it's a growth stock see a lot of reasons where there's going to be growth in China with both new vehicles and new production, and in Europe with production in Berlin. So there's still a lot of hope for the stock, even though there was maybe some profit taking that knocked shares down a bit last week.
Yeah, let's talk a little more about that resumption of production in Shanghai, getting going basically as early as they were permitted to. What does this tell us about how robust Tesla's supply chain is?
Well, they must have pretty good storage of parts and that sort of thing, and they, really must have gotten this plant ready to roll, because you do have other automakers like General Motors, for example. They're following government guidelines, but they're not going to resume production for another 2 weeks, and even that's going to be rolling things up. It's not going to be like they're just flicking the switch and getting all of their plants in China up and running. They say they're going to kind of gradually get them all running and get the assembly lines moving, and it may be 2 weeks starting on the 15th where they'll make that happen, whereas Tesla says they're going to get the Shanghai plant going very quickly. So that's good news for them, and that did spark some of the rally today.
David, I think some of the biggest concerns is the big rally in the stock and the optimism is driven over China, both on the demand side and the production side. Does this production lapse have any impact on that 500,000 deliveries that, frankly, is the reason the stock has run up so much since the earnings?
It really shouldn't, because it wasn't really down that long, and they should be able to make that production up. You got to remember, they were really just beginning to get this going. They were up, I think, when they said in fourth quarter earnings, when they reported about 1,000 cars a week. So they weren't fully there to begin with. So the lost production so far is sort of, let's call it early ramp-up production. They weren't at full line speed yet. That'll be some ways away. They haven't really given us clear guidance on that. But I think whatever they lose is something they can make up maybe with overtime, or as they just speed the line up while they get everything rolling in the next few weeks. Really shouldn't hurt them that much, because it's short-lived. And I think that's what the rally is about. People fear that with this virus, if it was really serious, you could have shutdowns at Tesla's plants and other companies' plants that went on for weeks or months, and it doesn't look like that much production will be lost.
David, I think people were trying to justify the market cap of this, and at $1,000 stock and a market cap that's been ballooning in the past few weeks or so. You had an NYU professor, Oswath Damodaran, talk about then to justify that, you would need a 10-fold increase in revenue, which as of 2019 was still under $25 billion. Is it realistic, and in what time frame, to get a 10-fold increase from $25 billion in 2019?
Not really. That's selling a lot of cars. And even though they have new markets that they can really grow in, China being a big one, they're not going to be facing big tariffs. They have local production. Same thing with Europe, and they'll have real demand coming out of that plant in Berlin. They'll get a lot of growth. And the Tesla shares are being valued like a growth stock, actually like a tech stock, but there's still a lot of differences between tech companies and what Tesla does. And that's the big debate I think we will see unfold in the next year or two. Is this an auto company with heavy capital costs and thin margins, or is it really a tech stock? I would argue it's still a car company, but we'll see. But their gross margins are, almost a third what Apple's are. So you have a long way to go before this is really a tech stock. But there is a lot of growth ahead, and I think Tesla is going to see a big boost in revenue that'll continue to drive the shares for quite a while.
David, it wasn't that long ago that people used to make sarcastic remarks about Elon time. Is Elon time credible now?
that's I think the main thing that has really pulled the shares up off the mat here. Because remember, it wasn't that long ago that they were trading down below 300. And the problem was, even though they made great products and they had this terrific brand, and Elon had almost a cult-like following, everything was delayed. And even when they hit a deadline, they didn't get production up in quite the numbers that they said. The whole Model 3 rollout in Fremont, California was a debacle for them. Elon himself calling it production hell. All that stuff seems to be behind them. They got Shanghai up and running on time. That was a big accomplishment for them. And they're getting the Model Y SUV out ahead of schedule by about 6 months. Forget about just meeting a deadline. They actually beat it by a long time. And so that really has investors enthusiastic that they've kind of stopped with a lot of the silliness and really focused on just operating the company. And they seem to be doing a pretty good job of it so far.